Okay. Watcher, welcome back. What's this now? Number 8?
8.
Number 8. Welcome back to Delboy's Garage. This is number 8 of Triumph Exhaust. This thing.
Welcome back to me.
And welcome back to Penny.
Not working.
Not working. Well, it's Sunday afternoon, so there we go. Last week it was me, you and the tripod, just because Penny was working on doing it early in the afternoons. It's back over to late shifts this week, so you might see Penny just a little bit more. But today we went out to a certain car shop and buying some toys. I've got some black silicone for the reassemblage, some anti-seize, copper slip, Loctite, whatever you call it, for all the exhaust fasteners. Exhaust fasteners should always be done up with anti-seize because they get hot and this stuff is heat resistant, and then they don't seize on there when you need them again. One of the bolts on one of these clamps was a little bit sticky and the thread's got a little tiny disruption in it, so I've got some new ones from a certain well-known car shop. And those clips, now where these are leaking here, just a quick one, on there, where these holes are, these kind of keyhole affairs to allow these slots to work, the clamps are only half that width, leaving this exposed. So the plan is to put yon Jubilee clip just over those with some silicone behind it, which will just seal the outer edge and stop it leaking. And it's really important that the system's sealed completely, so that it can be then mapped and read correctly on the default systems and so on. Because the exhaust is leaking, the remapping equipment will read that and as something wrong, so it'll throw up the default. Anyway, tonight is about quickly going over these. Scrape. That's enough for shopping, just some bits and pieces to complete the job. Got enough paint to complete the job. All I've got to do with these tonight is go over them with a green Scotch pad, just gently. You don't have to beef on them, just gently, just to lift off anything that hasn't properly stuck to the surface. You do it dry, you don't do it wet, so you're not soaking everything. And it's just the little joints and stuff and the peaks and areas, just so that you can be sure that because the fact, as I said in the last video, that you can't prime this stuff, that it's got a good bond with the metal underneath, and that it's going to last a few years and not start looking naff and rubbish in no time at all. So let's get stuck in without further ado. Stop waffling, let's get the green Scotch pad, let's give it some scuffage. Right. Now this stuff, you don't want to go using, or I would suggest respectfully that you don't go using the proper brown 3M bodywork rubbing down pads, because that's too aggressive. Use a standard green Scotch pad, purely because they're nothing more than a rough cloth, and they are all you need. If you can see, all it does, it will just be going over the surface, taking off nothing more than the peaks, giving a little bit of dust, nothing much, over the little areas, and you're testing to see if you can find any areas that lift off that are not properly keyed to the surface. You can make it come off if you want to, and that's the reason you don't use a big aggressive like paper, because it will come off. All you're looking to do is test the surface for proper adhesion, and that looks good right the way around. Little pads come off there, so I'll stick that back on in a sec. It's good in there. And as a byproduct of this, you do end up also making it just a little bit smoother than it was, so when you put the rest of the coatage on, it makes a nice finish. One of the things that bothers me a lot, or that I'm concerned about a lot, is that this is a new bike and I don't want to make it look cheap and chav, so taking the extra time to make a really good job of the black paint, because it's very easy for anyone to say, you just painted your exhaust black. What I want it to look like, I want it to look like a black exhaust, like it was an option, or that the manufacturer made it that way. The only way to do that is get the best possible finish, get a factory finish if possible, just by taking the time rather than rushing it to prep it properly. Because as you'll learn from anybody who does paint, Uncle Milo told me this, everything is in the preparation. 99% of any paint job is the preparation. There's a little bit, perfect example, there we are. There's a little tiny nick there, it's just come off back to the bare metal, and that would have been in the future a flake. So just going to exploit that out as big as it needs to be till we get out to properly bonded metal. There it is, not much. And if you just do it gently and go across it, you'll feather out the edges so it disappears and doesn't show through the new layer of paint. It's a little bit damp there. Scotch pad. That's that, that's done. Other than that, the rest is all good. And as you can see with that, a couple of people said, and quite rightly so, that this very high temperature paint is prone to looking chalky and powdery and not particularly very nice. Well, this is a perfect example of, if you give it a little bit of rubbage just with a very light Scotch pad, if I was then to buff that with a cloth to take out any lines, that will look fine, absolutely fine. It will still match in with the other part of the exhaust, and then you can go over the whole exhaust, silencers included, and get it up to one finish all the way down and make the whole job look really professional. Right, I think that's enough. What we're going to do with this now is wipe it over, give it a good spirit wipe again. Just going to use a Medi wipe on this instead of the thinners, because obviously the thinners will release the paint that's on there and cause a problem, it will burn it, and then it's ready for some more coating up, final layers. Just an interesting observation, of course, as well, is how well that's stuck. I expected probably 20% of this to flake off, to not keep properly and so on, but apart from one tiny blemish just there, which, who knows, that could have been a tiny bit of grease from this, anything, that's all it is. It's absolutely stuck. So I could have carried on and coated that up and that would have been the only casualty. And now, thankfully, I've done it this way. I've even got that. This is the top edge that's going to see all the rain, the weather, and get seen. This bottom edge doesn't so much. Right, this is the remainders of last night's can. Just got probably one coat in that at the best, which will be 3 coats in all. I didn't rub any weight of material off just then with the Scotch-Brite, so there's just as much material was here before. So eventually we'll end up with what I wanted, which is 6 coats. I always believe, I don't know whether it's lucky number 6 or what, but I always like 6 coats of paint on anything. These are the little link pipes I forgot to do on video last time. They're just the little things that are going to link all this together. Need a good thick coat just in the joints, because they're absolutely mild steel. These are stainless, they won't rust no matter what. These are mild steel, so the paint on this particular bit has got a little bit more to do as in the form of rust prevention, as opposed to on the rest of the exhaust where it's just making it look pearly, which is just as important. Isn't that right, Pen?
Yep.
Talking through a mask today, I'll have you know.
I don't like the smell.
I love it. So there we are. Just before you all make comments, Penny is wearing a mask.
I am. Oh, I sound like Darth Vader.
Daft Ada.
Daft
Yes,
Ada.
Daft Ada. That old woman from up the road. Right. That's it. Dead can. Right, that's that for that one. That's one good coat over the whole lot, which makes 3 in all so far. That's now going to take probably, it says 15 minutes to flash off in 70 degrees. Temperature in the garage is 52 degrees. It's not quite cold. So I'm going to give that an hour to flash off until it's got a nice soft but non-tacky finish. And then I'll just lay up the last 2, maybe 3 coats of paint at the most, because I want to leave in the other tin, I want to leave myself about 1/3 of that left over for the silencers, just in case I choose to do them, and also for spares. If you're going to get a little mark on it, or if you scratch it, which you're inevitably going to do at some point, it's nice to have some handy. And obviously once it's got 6 coats on, it doesn't need any more. After that, it's just surplus and will start to cause it to chip in the future because it is too thick. There we go, that's enough for that. Come back when we do next. Right, done 2 coats, did the last one just now. It's boring just laying coats up. Just going to do the last one in a minute. I've had the heater on, you can probably hear it running there, and it's brought the temperature up to 60 degrees in here, so it's quite temperate in here now. It's quite nice. So while I'm just going to do this, while I'm just warming up, where is it, that one? Just warming up that tin of paint in front of the heater, give it some pressure. I had a little gift from someone. I just want to say thanks very much. I had a little mail while I was making this bracket to mount the exhaust on. If you remember, if you pay attention, I did use a nut there just as a little spacer, just to bring the bracket out, because the way the pipes run down the side of the bike, they have to come out to a certain angle. There's a minimum amount they can go in before they catch the shock. Remember, I wanted that space up in the inside, so I had to put a little 10mm thick spacer in there. Well, somebody called Tiger8, his username is Tiger8, I contacted and said, look, I make spaces, what I do on the lathe at work, can I make you one? Wanted to put a contribution into the project, wanted to do something for us so that when the bike's riding around, it's part of something he made on the bike. And I think that's fantastic. So Mr. Tiger 8, thank you kindly, sir. Thank you so much. There it is. It's an absolutely stunning little spacer. It's 10mm thick by 30mm that way, with an 8.5mm hole, so that the link bolt slips straight through. I mean, that's absolutely stunning. And the bracket obviously is going to go on the outside of that, but the bracket's slightly smaller, so that radius is going to fit in perfectly. And that's a little piece of heavyweight stainless steel, so it's going to be a lovely little spacer. So thanks, mate. I really appreciate that. It's these little tiny things people do, and they help us out. They just send us a little gift like that. I would never have been able to make that. I don't have a lathe, and I don't have the skills to use a lathe. I've never worked with a lathe. My mate Dave, Duke Dyson, he tends to use a lathe at work. It's what he does. He's good at it. But I'm not. It's just, I think the last time I used a lathe was at school. I know the principles, and I'd love to have one in here to play with, but I wouldn't make anything like that. So that's fantastic. So Tiger 8, thank you so much for that. That's absolutely fantastic. Very much appreciated, my friend. And when we reassemble the bike, I'll revisit that again, give you another mention, and it will go on the bracket on the side and look absolutely the business. Because what I'm looking for with this, I'm looking for a high-end finish, as somebody called it just now in the comments. I was just clearing a few comments on the internet whilst this is drying off. It's got a lovely finish to it now. It's dried off. It's had about half an hour, 45 minutes. It's had 2 thick coats. We've been at this over an hour or so now. And this high-end finish is important to me because I spent, you know, some savings and invested in a brand new bike. And I don't want that bike to look like it's been in Delboy's garage, so it now looks like a rat bike. I don't want that. What I want, as I said, for this, I want that high-end finish. It's very important to me. I want it to look like the factory made it that way. I want people to say, where did you buy your black exhaust? I didn't know they came in black. That to me will be the compliment that the job is a good job. And little things like that, little spaces, beautiful little pieces of engineering like that, really aid the job. So I'm going to be looking forward intently to fitting that on the job when it's done. So thanks. Appreciate that. Tiger 8, thank you so much. Right now, without further ado, and waffleage. Pick up the tin that's got some in it.
Paintage.
Put your pass. What?
Paintage.
Paintage.
Put my mask back
Put your
on.
put your mask over your mouth, woman. Shut up. Okay, here we go. Last coat. Now, oddly enough, the last coat is a dust coat. As much as you put the first dust coat on, with aerosol can paints, the pressure inside this can diminishes as you paint. As the amount of paint drops, the amount of compressed air expands, and therefore the pressure in it drops. So therefore the atomization, that's the particles of paint being really tiny and nice and fine, that diminishes, they become more blobby. If you put it in front of the heater, that raises the pressure, but it's a bit scary doing that anytime. I just don't like putting paint cans in front of heaters. You can put them in boiling water, that works quite well, or hot water. Don't do that, put it in hot water and that will increase the pressure. But the final coats with this engine lacquer stuff need to be dust coats, not too thick, don't load up too much. The reason for that is that obviously if you load it up too much it's going on blobby and your final coat will be disrupted finish, it won't be nice and smooth and that will be a disaster. Spin them and do the underneath. I want to say thanks as well to all the people who said, because I think this is quite boring to watch. So the people who said, no, it's not boring, I watched it, etc. Thank you, appreciate that. This sort of thing's great to do, it's very therapeutic to do it, but I can't imagine watching it for very long.
I do.
Thanks. You can see my #1 heckler is back, can't you? Eh?
I had chocolate ice cream, I feel a bit.
I think I'll put 3 or 4 more masks on there, then I can't hear you waffling. Shut up. Stop criticising. Right. Okay. Somebody, actually Grey Viper, wasn't it? Just said, who just spotted that because I'm a Monkeyboy, in the last video, I did all this, painted them lovely, and then as I was just about to go in, spotted these 2 spacers still on the bench. Bugger. So I had to quickly paint those. So they were painted in the last coat up, but they weren't, I didn't show them the video because I'm an idiot and I forgot to do them. And that bracket's had plenty now. You just find it on this, like I said, this paint has a ceramic content. And it sets quite hard, like a skin, or like a ceramic coating, like it's meant to be. Just shut up. Honestly, it's been nice last week, like having you there gibbering, chuckling at me. You know what I mean? And with a ceramic coating, because it goes so hard, because it's set so solid, if it's too thick, that's when it's liable to crack. And if you knock something against it, or you're working on a bike and you drop a spanner on it or something, that's when you're likely to chip it. So it doesn't want too much. This is the 6th coat and this is going to be enough. If I put too much on, I'm risking that in the future it will just have a big lump chip out of it and it'll just look crap, and that's a disaster. So it's kind of less is more. We always want to lay more paint on. If you do painting or if you do your own paint work, it is tempting to just keep laying it on, because the more you lay on, the better it looks, and all of a sudden, boom, it runs. The professional guys will tell you, you listen to Milo, they'll tell you that knowing when to stop is the skill. Knowing when to say, that's it, enough. I've laid enough on, don't need any more. There's always, even now I'm suffering from it, there's always that tendency to go, oh, just got a bit more in there, over here. And then before you know it, it's all running down. And that's rubbish. Right, so that's that one. One more little lick over that. We are done. Need more space around this really, I think. There we go. That is it. That's the lot. Clear the can out. Right, now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you. Can I just borrow the camera pen? So just pull the plug out. That's it. I just want to show you this, just in the light. Obviously, like I said before, I am looking for that really high-end finish like a professional job, like they've been powder coated. And if you can see in the gloss finish while it's wet that there are no blemishes and that the whole job is perfect, then you know that when it gets dry it will be just as good, if not better, because matte is quite forgiving. Matte finishes do look good, and from that, for me, I'm very happy with that finish. There's a little bit of a graininess to it, but that does, I've seen that each time I do a coat, that does dissipate and it just becomes a lovely smooth soft satin. As you can see there, it's matting out quite nicely. In this temperature, now I've got the temperature up right over and above the last time, it's matting out while it's drying, which is really nice. Chuffed with that. Right, so that's it. 48 hours to wait now. I'm afraid that's all I can do. It's going to take that long. There are 6 reasonably heavy coats of paint on there, and it is quite cool. It's about 50 degrees. It's not. It says 70 degrees for drying times. So as that's nearly half that, I really want it to be properly solid before I start mauling it around, putting it on the bike. And wouldn't it be a shame to ruin it because it isn't properly dry? Better to be patient and wait and do it properly. And like I keep saying, get that nice high-end finish when it's done, so when it's on the bike it looks like it came from the factory. I've got about a third of the tin of paint left, and I'm just going to keep that safe just in case. There's nothing worse than using all your paint up and then scuffing it, putting it on the bike, or worse than that, finding that the silencers don't match and I have to lay a little coat over that. Keep that safe. Thanks again to Tiger 8 for that spacer. Ever so pleased with that. Thanks ever so much, my friend. Much appreciated. That kind of thing will make a nice job of it over and above a bodge, which I really do appreciate. So take it easy, ride safe. Winter's here now, the roads are sorted up, it's cold, it's slippery. Don't go hurting yourselves, it's not important enough. See you next time.